Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It is December the 2nd, 2025, 5:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1:05 a.m. in Moscow, and the 5-hour marathon negotiations have ended between Witkoff and Kushner from the United States and Vladimir Putin, Kirill Dmitriev, and Ushakov from Russia. What's your thoughts on 5 hours of talks? And we have the
Took long
results for
enough.
you. It did.
Nothing
It took
good's gonna happen out of 5 hours. That's just my first reaction.
Well, we have it for you on both of our channels. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, and subscribing. We appreciate each and every one of you. Let's just go through it right now, and we're ready to roll here. So Kirill Dmitriev, this is the moment he came out of the 5 hours of negotiations. I can tell you also, this just happened minutes ago. Witkoff is already at the U.S. Embassy calling Trump on a secure line. Kirill comes out, boom, productive. Let me show you one clip and then give your comment. This is from Zarubin inside. This is how they're waiting in the Kremlin to show the story. Here it is. At the time of recording this video, let's check the clock. Oh, it's midnight. Negotiations began 5 hours ago. They've lasted 5 hours. They took place behind these doors. They are now closed, but according to our information, negotiations have concluded. How do we know this? Large number of journalists have been allowed to come into the hallway. This is a clear sign the negotiations are over. As you can understand, there wouldn't be this many reporters here. So that's how they roll it in the Kremlin. Of course, Zarubin has a free pass, but this also shows you we're 30 minutes out getting this information to you if you're watching this as soon as we drop it. 5 hours.
I just know that the longer they talk, the worse it's going to get. So let's get to that part of the.
Instead of me translating and voicing over Ushakov, his statement was very short. I will give you the text of it, and it is this. Compromises have not been found yet, and a meeting between the leaders of Russia and the United States is not planned at the moment. We discussed the essence, not specific formulations and solutions. The parties see huge prospects for future interaction. Putin stated that Moscow can agree with some elements of the U.S. plan on Ukraine, but some points raised criticism and disagreement from the Russian side. The meeting made it possible to discuss ways of further settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. Please give our greetings to President Trump. That's it.
Okay. So remember, the U.S. plan was not the U.S. plan. It was the Russian 28-point plan, which became the 19-point plan, which became the 20-point plan after Greece and Florida. So, of course, they're not going to agree to things, to anything here intentionally. So they're holding this like, it's almost like a sick, and this thought hasn't come out of the oven. It's not fully baked, so it shouldn't come out of the oven. But it's almost like a boyfriend and girlfriend. One of the parties is playing games with the other one and like wants to keep the relationship going, but doesn't want to actually commit to anything. So we're just going to kind of come, kind of go, kind of come, kind of go, that sort of thing. So nothing was going to come of this.
As you can see, and it was, I guess, pretty good planning there to show Zarubin up front. We're 30 minutes from this actually happening and getting the information to you guys. And I'm reading everything here live coming off of Ukrainian media analyst, Russian media analyst, and they're all saying the same thing. It was just a 5-hour chat and there are 0 results. And this leads us to like what John Bolton said. There were some other interesting things that we need to share over the next 7 or 8 minutes. And in addition to that, NBC News really dropped it hours ago what the results are. And I think we can kind of lean on that as being fairly accurate now. So let's continue. This is per Russian officials. This is shared by NBC. This was right on their website, on their documents. They dropped it at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which would have been 9:10 p.m. in Moscow. Talks lasted another 3.5 hours per the Russian officials.
Before we talk about this, let me set the stage. If you
Go.
were trying to scuttle negotiations and trying to dodge it, just ask yourself what you would demand if you were Russia, and then let's look at this.
Okay, so here it is, guys. This is reported from NBC News, and I feel comfortable enough, as I see Professor Gerdes does as well, to actually report it. Russia wants Donbass fully. Moscow insists on control over all territory of the region, including those areas that Russia has not occupied. That's number one. Number two, reduction of the Ukrainian armed forces, a demand to sharply reduce the Ukrainian army and to refuse key types of weaponry for the future. Thirdly, recognition of annexations. Russia wants the United States and Europe to officially recognize the occupied regions as Russian. Fourthly, the Kremlin's position effectively blocks any realistic peace agreement. So this is what was reported per NBC News. What are your thoughts on that,
Yeah.
Prof?
Point one, Ukraine can't. Point two, Ukraine won't or shouldn't reduce the size of its army. Point three, the Europeans can't and won't. So they they're not going to recognize this
Of
like this.
course not.
And by the way, it's a violation of international law to change the lines by force like it is. So it's disrupting the whole international world order in that sense. So and that is partly what Putin wants to get out of this.
I'm going to show a map thing when we close out, just so everyone understands how much territory we're talking about. But let's keep clicking along. John Bolton making an interesting statement as or right prior to the negotiations. And I think it's worth a listen because this is something I've been trying to hammer home so that people would understand Kremlin mentality. Here it is.
I agree with Wes. I think there's a zero chance of agreement here. Trump has once again, without any strategic forethought, tried to bully Ukraine into accepting what are essentially Russian terms. Some of those have been walked back. But the fact is, Witkoff has no concept of what Russia really wants here. Trump may, but he doesn't care. He wants a deal so he can get a Nobel Peace Prize. Vladimir Putin has said for 20 years in express terms he's trying to recreate the Russian Empire. And in the theology of Russian imperialism, there is no Russian Empire without Ukraine.
That's accurate. Spot on, man. Spot on. Now, go ahead.
No, I was just about to say, I gave the analogy the other day, and I think it's pretty fair that they're all on the same field, but they're playing different games, right? Ukraine is trying to run up the score and win justly. Russia is trying to not actually end the game, but keep the game going as long as possible. So they'll get as many fouls as possible in order to keep the ref calling it longer and longer and longer and longer. The United States is trying to just end the game. It doesn't matter who has what score at the end of it. They just like that's where the Trump position is.
Let's look at a
So
couple of things
when you
that
understand
are
that,
interesting. It's you're spot on. I think John Bolton's definitely spot on. There's decades here of preparation for this, and until you get inside that mentality, it's impossible to understand. It's very fair. Let me share with you some of that mentality now. This was so interesting when you think about it in lieu of those types of thought lines and processes like this. This is how Dmitriev came to the meeting. And people say, oh, who cares, whatever. No, pay attention to this stuff. He wears in his Vladimir Putin autographed Russia jacket with the double eagle there. I zoomed in for you on the tag. It says Rossiya, and it's autographed by Putin. And what that says in Russian is Russia is not a country that is afraid of anything. This is how he comes to the meeting. So what's going to happen when he gets there? Witkoff and Kushner's going to go, what does your jacket say?
Well, they can't read it, that's for sure.
Well, of course they can't read it. Take a look at this one, Michael McFaul. Note that 3 of the 5 people participating in the meeting are business people. U.S.-Russia business deal should not be on the agenda of negotiation in Putin's invasion of Ukraine. What's your thought on that?
Surely somewhere in the United States there is a trained uh, diplomat that has some kind of ability to do better than these guys. I have no doubt about it. Let's dust off McFall and send him forward, right? I mean, if
I'm
you really
telling you,
wanted to get Putin to come to the table, send McFall or Keith Kellogg or both of them as a negotiating team. That would actually
100%.
start to get some movement.
100%. Look at this. Kate from Kharkiv tweeting out during the meeting, Witkoff's mood when meeting with Ukrainians versus Russians. And these are actual photos from 2 days ago and today. On the left, Witkoff unshaven. Everybody was making, tweets and different things about his attitude. He just kind of sat there. Rubio was in charge. But today, all smiles, shaved up and clean. This is reality, guys. Now, I want to move us to the last thing, and this is Russian logic. So when the NBC story dropped, Russian analysts started putting out their reasoning why those things were in the NBC article that I really started to give credence to. So here is the logic they're implying. Peace is needed because it is essentially a fratricidal civil war between Russia and Ukraine. 2, peace is needed, but a ceasefire is not, because a ceasefire will be used by the war party to prepare Ukraine, which is essentially occupied by the West, for even another bloodier war. That's the beginnings of their logic.
Logic's not the right term.
Okay.
It's talking points or
Okay.
narrative or whatever. But this idea of a fratricidal civil war, I'm pretty sure that the Ukrainians aren't thinking about it as fratricidal. But
Agreed.
this goes back to the Russian mentality that Ukrainian is just some kind of virus of a political identity. It's not real, and that has to be either stamped out or they have to be reformed in their thinking to be good Russians again.
Well,
So that's where they come, but that's
and-
not logic. That's a narrative.
Okay, Russian narrative, better way to say it. I'm actually putting the data in as they were writing it. They said
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Main pillars for peace: 1, NATO never, and it was a period. NATO never. Number 2, Ukraine should not have the ability to start a war against Donbass. Therefore, the size of the Ukrainian armed forces and their weapons should be limited. 3, Ukraine should not be a threat, should not be anti-Russian, should not be a terroristic system. Therefore, denazification is necessary, and Russian as a second official language, and the cessation of repression against the Orthodox Church. And then fourthly, remove the legal basis for a new war. Therefore, the requirement for the legal recognition internationally of these territories that are Russia. I'm going to say one thing, and then you let it rip on your thoughts on that. This is why Putin came out today prior to the meetings, which was really interesting, with the press conference after his long day, and he made this statement: Ukrainians are pirates. They're blowing up the ships in the Black Sea. They're pirates. You need to understand they're pirates. And after that, he walked right into the Witkoff meeting. So this is their, I just transcribed it logic, but this is their talking points.
No, the illogic of it, okay, so let's take number 2. Peace is needed, but a ceasefire is not, because ceasefire will be used by the party to prepare, war party to prepare Ukraine. Well, how is it that only Ukraine could use this to rearm or get some kind of advantage? Russia's not gonna get any advantage from this too by being able to take a breather and rearm? Certainly they are. So, it just doesn't make sense. And again, everything's calculated to scuttle the deal. I mean, that's what this amounts
100%.
to in my estimation.
100%.
Yeah.
Last 2 things we need to look at, and guys, you're caught up. This is breaking. It's now 1:19 a.m. in Moscow. There's not going to be any more news coming out. This is it. You are updated, but I just want you to understand one thing, and then one Zelenskyy statement. Look at this. This is what Russia is wanting Ukraine to just leave. I got to put my glasses on here, but I'll do my best just to kind of lay it out for you. Just Donetsk Oblast, okay? I'm roughly going to do this for you guys, just so that you understand. Watch where this line is going, okay? And I'm going to come just roughly around the red line here. the reason I'm connecting this, I want you to understand the area, not just the names of these cities, but Russia reiterated today, and I'm down in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd now, that they literally want Ukraine to walk away from this. 5,800 square kilometers.
Okay, so they took 4,000 or 450 or so square kilometers last month. So just a rough cut of math is going to take over a year to capture that, let alone that these are where the fortress cities are, right? So trying to take that territory is going to be extra hard. And it's just not happening.
And the fortifications
So,
here are powerful. So
yeah.
it's unbelievable. Last thing, if anybody's wondering, has Zelenskyy said anything? No. He went to Ireland. There was some rumors that he may meet with Witkoff on the way back. I'm not sure that's going to become a reality now. I do not know the answer.
Theoretically, Witkoff's supposed to be going to see Zelenskyy next.
That is
Theoretically.
correct. Theoretically. Yeah. But we shall see what comes of that. No facts to report on that. But yes, this is what Zelenskyy said right at the beginning of the meetings. He says there will be no simple solutions regarding the end of the war. We understand what is happening. We understand who we are dealing with. The issue is not the complexity of making decisions. I am capable of making decisions. What is important is that everything is fair and open, that there is no backroom game behind Ukraine's back, that nothing is decided about us, about our future, without Ukraine. And yes, the most sensitive and complex issues relate to territories and frozen assets. So this is where we're at. 100% caught up.
I'm going to just say, if you're worried about a bad deal being pushed on Zelenskyy at this point, just relax, go eat some ice cream. It's okay. Nothing's going to come out of this. At least not at this stage.
No,
nothing's, in my estimation, nothing will come out. The Russians do not want it.
No, so absolutely not. And in fact, I mean, that's it, guys. In fact, Ushakov, I've got his video quote here. I don't have time to translate it. We're recording now, but he says, the same issue that is important to Ukraine is equally important to us, and it is the issue of territory. And there is no compromise that was found today. So that's where we're at.
Nor will there be. All right. Well, thanks for watching, folks. And if you're watching this at this point, you really care. You've set yourself apart as somebody who really cares. Thanks for the time.
You are fully aware and educated up to the minute. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing. If you haven't commented, subscribe to Prof, go do that. Or if you're over there, hop over my way as well. When we partner together almost every day. You guys be blessed, and we'll be back at you soon.